Hey, everybody, and welcome back to a very thankful edition of the DLF Trade Show, a member of the DLF YouTube channel. I am just so verklempt with all of this gratefulness and the fact that not only does Addison let me come back every single week, the fact that people watch this enough for people to, well, for Addison and DLF to keep asking me to come back because this is just so much fun and I love doing this. A lot of the times it's because it helps me because I get to just like pretend I'm trying to help all of you, but I just ask Addison, values on players, so I get to try and help make trades. So thank you, DLF. Thank you, Addison, for not realizing I don't know what I am. I'm just a pretty face, I guess, and just not booting me the heck out of here. But on brand, Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at Hayes _. We are here to sort of talk about players we are thankful for, players we are willing to go and try and acquire, even though it's no secret. These are good players. These are not, go get this guy and he'll be like worth more. Go get this guy. He's cheap, but he'll score you points. No, there's no secrets here. This is straight up good players that you should go buy anyway, because it will be worth it. And I gave a list of players, and Addison had his, and I don't know if this player was on his as well, but this was one of the first players I listed. I love Jaylen Waddle. It is no surprise.
Don't we all just love Jaylen Waddle?
We should. And Jaylen Waddle is wonderful for two reasons. He is technically the wide receiver 2 on the team, behind Tyreek Hill, who was also on my list because so was Tua, by the way. Go into this offense. Don't just go for it. And I honestly, it's not on the sheet, but we're going to talk about Tyreek a little later also. He is going to be seen as less valuable because Tyreek is there. And if you look at scoring, is ridiculous the right word? I think ridiculous might be the right word. Because, are you really sad about the wide receiver 9 in points per game? Like, that's Waddle.
And so good.
Like, the only thing that keeps Waddle a little elevated, even though Tyreek is on the same team, is like the 7-year age difference between the two of them. But still, people will still be down on Waddle just because Tyreek is there. The difference in points per game, by the way, hold on, what is it? Waddle's at 17.5. Tyreek is, he's at 22.2. That's more than I thought it would be, but it's still 17.5 points per game.
17.5 points per game. That's yeah.
So let's get into a trade. The first trade we have is a 12-team Superflex league where Jaylen Waddle was traded for Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, and TJ Hawkinson. Okay, so clearly this appears to be a competing team that maybe got some injuries or something happened to their depth, and they're saying, you know what, I'm competing, but I need more players. So you went and you got 3 players. You went and you got 3 pretty good players. In the analyzer, Waddle by himself comes in at 668. Christian Kirk, 188. Brandon Ayuk, 186. And wow, TJ Hawkinson, 181. Like, you had to type and you found it. 3 players right at the same exact value. The problem is they total at 554. And that's how I was feeling coming into looking at this. Yes, you now have 3 players you can plug into your team that most likely won't lose you a week, and maybe they explode. Christian Kirk can put up 20, 30 points. Ayuk a little more rarely can just put up those 20-point games, and Hawkinson 3 games on the Vikings and he has 29 targets. But that's not what you trade away a top 10 dynasty wide receiver and a top 10 producing wide receiver for. I like that these are 3 young players. I like that these are 3 young players that are scoring points, but I think personally, regardless of what depth I need on my team, I would want a wide receiver that is Kirk and Ayuk's value put together, even though I will say Christian Kirk's value is probably a little too low in this because there's still just lack of respect there. Yeah, I get it. But in Dynasty, I would send a bunch of wide receiver twos and a not top tier tight end for Jaylen Waddle any day.
Right. That's kind of I think it's the inverse relationship a little bit of the running back position, right? Because running back, we usually preach in Dynasty is that you just want as many as humanly possible because you want to give yourself as many options weekly as possible. And if you have that anchor RB1, you have, Christian McCaffrey or Saquon or Eckler or Derrick Henry, whoever that RB1 is, then your RB2 can be the weakest spot in your starting lineup. But that's, I think, different at wide receiver. At wide receiver, usually, because you have so many running backs, you're going to have to cut somewhere else. And that, to me at least, is usually the wide receiver position where I just want guys that I can plug and play every single week. I don't want to have to think about it. I don't want to make decisions. And so usually that is the position where I often find myself packaging and doing 2-for-1s, 3-for-1s, stuff like that, and doing trades exactly like this, like what you said, where you're packaging multiple wide receiver twos and going and you're getting just that stud every week starter that you don't even got to think about playing, in a bad matchup, in a fantastic matchup, over this guy or the other guy. It's just you're playing Jaylen Waddle every week and you're done. So I think this is a fantastic deal. And even, you're missing 100 points here, according to the analyzer too. So you got a fantastic deal on Jaylen Waddle. You're missing another 180 point player would get you the 4-for-1 slight overpay for the better asset. So
next trade we have, I love. I if you were one of the unfortunate teams to have Cooper Kupp and you wanted to find a team that would still be able to give you points coming back, because chances are you had Cooper Kupp, you were a competing team. This trade
you were 10-1 and your one loss was this past week because you didn't have Kupp.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, and I'm assuming this person second because Addison has it down here as a late second for Jaylen Waddle. All day long. Oh my, all day long. I got nothing because technically fair trade. Waddle 668, Cooper Kupp 597, late second 96, a total of 692. Fair enough. Over by about a third. Cool. But you got 6 years back. You got so much. One of them is an ascending. That's the word. The other one is descending.
Yeah.
That's it. Words didn't really work right there, but I got it. I got there in the end. That's what's important. I see zero bad about acquiring Jaylen Waddle in this. The other side, I don't get it, because if you're trading for Cooper Kupp right now, which means you're competing next year, Jaylen Waddle will help you compete next year. And the late second, well, it's nice. It's not going to really change anything. You're not going to use that in a deal and completely elevate the kind of player you would get back. I don't really see the upside of moving 23-year-old Jaylen Waddle, top 10 wide receiver, for Cooper Kupp, who, what is that offense anymore? What is that offense going to be next year? Stafford's still going to be there? That offensive line hopefully gets better. Maybe they have a running back. They haven't in a couple of years.
They just released yesterday.
Yeah. It was funny. I recorded Trade Addicts last night, and someone asked a listener question, what are your thoughts on Cam Akers after the Henderson news? And I had a really busy work day. I'm like, what Henderson news?
No.
Yeah, right? I love that. Love is the wrong word because I feel bad because these are real people with real jobs. That the NFL doesn't seem to care about running backs anymore either. It's not just a fantasy thing. Between Eno Benjamin and Melvin Gordon and now Darrell Henderson. Well, okay, Melvin Gordon's play was slipping a little, but he's 100 and cheap. But still, they're just like, no, it's not working. See ya. And then Gordon cleared waivers, which was pretty interesting as well. So I don't see, value-wise, it's fine. I get it. But I don't see the upside in trading Jaylen Waddle for Cup, even if you're getting a second on top.
I actually thought this was a good trade to talk about for a couple of reasons, was because I think that, like you said, this is a fantastic deal to go get Jaylen Waddle. But we haven't talked about Cooper Kupp yet on this show, really, in terms of what his value looks like now after the injury. And then we got more news that he's done for the year, at least for the fantasy season and the NFL regular season. He's going to be done for the remainder of that. So we're not going to see Cooper Kupp in your fantasy lineups again until 2023. So what does that do to his value? And I think it's just one of those weird situations where, like, he is only helpful to a few teams out there. And it's those teams that are really competing for next year. Maybe you had like a bunch of injuries, right? Like, you're one of those teams that you lost Trey Lance at the beginning of the year. You lost Breece Hall halfway through the year. So now you're kind of looking at some assets that you can shed away, and maybe you're able to boost up your roster for next year. That, I think, those are very specific teams that could go out and acquire Cooper Kupp. If you're like 1-10 right now or 2-9, I don't think you have any reason to really be going out and buying Cooper Kupp right now, unless you had, like if you had like Stephon Diggs and you could get an extra second with Cooper Kupp, Diggs for Kupp in a second. I think that could work, and do that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But this is just one of those weird deals, I think, that are just very specific. But if you're in this specific situation, I think it can absolutely help. But I will take Jaylen Waddle in this deal. I think you have to include that second with Cooper Kupp just to make it enticing, because then, it's like, well, I'm not just getting a soon-to-be 30-year-old wide receiver coming off of an injury. And I mean, granted, it's Cooper Kupp coming off of an injury. We've already seen him do that before, but you get that extra second, which is just a nice little additional piece that you can use as a trade chip in future trades. You could make that deal, or you can make that pick in, if it's, given that it's super flex, it could still be a pretty solid player, in the 2023 class. So that's the type of move that you have to make right now if you're trying to move Cooper Kupp. You could replace Jaylen Waddle with basically any wide receiver in the top probably 9 or 10. And that's probably the deal that you got to make right now.
I put Joe Burrow on my list. Again, Addison never showed me his, so I don't know if he was there also, or if he just found some good trades, or if he just liked my list so much that he gave me 2 players on it and only one of his, because I did scroll down and cheat to see who the next one is, though I do completely agree with it. Mm-hmm. So Joe Burrow was very good. And the reason I put Joe Burrow here is because after doing, first of all, I did QB rankings earlier this week, which is like the first time I think I've ever done rankings before. That's hard. That's terrible. I don't like doing it. But I also feel like I'm a little bit higher on Joe Burrow, and, talking to a lot of people to find out why they're a little lower on Burrow, he's not the running quarterback that Hurts or Allen is. Like, that's on the table. That is the obvious one. But his touchdown numbers and percentages are just very, very high. And the thing that I kind of stop and think about, that's not going to change. That defense is so bad, it will take more than an offseason to fix that. So they are going to have to keep throwing the ball. And if you are throwing the ball to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, you're going to be able to throw some touchdowns. Do you have any feelings besides what I've said? Like, do you disagree? Are you just like shrugging your shoulders at all the awesome things I just said? Like, what do you got going on with Joe Burrow?
No, I like Burrow a lot. I think, he's definitely in that category of, like, he's QB like 5 or 6 probably in there. That whole, honestly, like, everybody after Mahomes and Josh Allen is like all in the same tier. So there's really no difference to me between Burrow and Justin Herbert, or Burrow and Lamar Jackson. I think you could kind of, really draw some lines in there in terms of like this. I would prefer this guy over this other guy because this, or higher ceilings or whatnot. But Burrow is firmly just planted right in there, and there's really nothing that is going to draw him out of it, especially because he has probably the second best receiving duo in the league. and he's just
like, I wanted to fight you there, but like
nope.
Tyreek and Waddle are just really,
Tyreek and Waddle, man.
good. Like maybe in like 2 years when Chase and Higgins like really like cement into the NFL, but like Tyreek's been doing it for a while, and Waddle is just on the level with Chase and Higgins to me. So since they have Tyreek, it's a little up there, but I want to fight anyway, just because.
Just wait until the Vikings draft Jordan Addison, and then that'll be, oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's get to dang. All right, let's get to some trades. The first trade we have is 12-team Superflex, and it is Joe Burrow and Pat Freiermuth for Dak Prescott, Alvin Kamara, and a late second. Joe Burrow, 868. Pat Freiermuth, 129 for a total of 998. Prescott, 640. Kamara, 350 still. And a 23 second, which is late, is 96 for a total of 1086. While this is what we want to see, you're overpaying pretty much by that second. Cool. Yeah. No, that works out almost perfectly. Like, you're paying over by that second to get the best player in the deal and the condensed value. And man, what is this? Going from 29 to 25 and going from 27-year-old running back to a 24-year-old tight end. You should probably pay a second for that anyway. But I would send this all day to go get Joe Burrow and Pat Freiermuth. I would not do it the other way around. Well, I like Dak. Dak is, to me, the definition of a safe QB1. Short of the injuries, which can't predict that or anything. But Dak Prescott is good. He's a good quarterback on a well enough schemed offense that he will keep scoring points. He'll always be okay. I don't think he has the Joe Burrow point ceiling. Unless their offense changed to the point where they move on from Zeke, which seems to be a possibility.
Please.
And they install, what they do with Pollard full time, and then, bring on the better version of Pollard in the draft this year and use that guy instead. Sorry, I'm just like, Pollard's okay. He's just like, he's getting way too built up. So yeah, I would easily age down this even on a competing team, because Kamara's nice, but the Saints offense isn't. And Pat Freiermuth on that, bad Steelers offense is still very consistent, scoring decent points. And if you have a tight end premium, he's going to be a top 5 tight end, just based on youth, based on his use in the offense, and based on the fact that you get to go move whenever he does something. Yes, I factor that into my dynasty value.
Oh yeah, it has to. I mean, it's one of the coolest things that Freiermuth has going for him. But yeah, I really like this trade too. So it posted today, which we're recording this on Wednesday. So if you're watching this Thursday or Friday, it happened on Wednesday. But so in the video that I posted this morning was 3 players that I want to just kind of completely get out of. And I guess it's not really a spoiler because he's on the thumbnail, but Alvin Kamara is example A of a player that I want to get out of like right now. And basically to sum it up is he's producing fine for you, but it's not irreplaceable production. And that's always kind of been one of the main reasons to keep Alvin Kamara, is that he is just a league winning running back. And that's why you kind of suffer the age a little bit, because you're still getting the points. But if the points aren't necessarily coming there, then I don't know what kind of an asset he really is. And so he's one of those players that I think still has high name value, plus the points are good enough that people are still willing to take him on. But I want to get out from under him. So Dak and Kamara to go up and get Joe Burrow, and then you add in Pat Freiermuth onto that as well. Like, I know the second's in there, but to me, this second, especially because it's late, if you're trying to contend, if it's like 210, 211, 212, that's a piece that you throw in there to appease the other person, because in their mind that, you get the second, and that just sounds better than getting a random third.
Yeah,
but
and also
it's a piece that I'm not worried about ultimately losing when the rest of the deal makes so much more sense for you.
personally, when doing the kind of deal where I am trading the younger players for the older players, usually it's for production reasons, which this might be. Maybe something happened at their running back position, who knows? And they have to start too many. So like, stop the starting requirements. One of each, the rest of it flex. Not the point. I love the idea of getting the pick back with the older players because it, if anything, just makes you feel better that you're not just aging out your team. You are putting a little future draft capital in with to replace the young players. Of course, I'm not saying that second will turn into Muth or Burrow or anything. Just saying it helps the value of your team. And hold on, I just want to talk about Kamara for a second because like you're right where we're at name value. He had a game a couple of weeks ago where he put up 42 points, and we're just like, he's back.
All of his touchdowns scored on the season were in that one game.
So he missed 2 games. He came back and he scored 23, 18, 17, 43, 9, 7, 13. Like if he just didn't put up those 40 points, we would want nothing to do with Kamara. But we were reminded that was his ceiling. He is points per game running back 15.
Mm-hmm. And he gets the Niners this
total
week.
15. Hold on, sorry.
I think he's in the top. Yeah,
he's 11.
Yeah,
I forgot to hit the average button. Which, don't get me wrong, isn't bad. But like, if you can tell me, all right, assuming Aaron Jones is healthy right now, I would choose Aaron Jones or Dalvin Cook, who are less than half a point per game below Kamara. I would take either of them easily over Kamara right now.
Or just go and get like Ramondre.
Well, yes, of course, but I'm just trying to keep with the age and the
age. Yeah, for sure. I just pay an extra second and go get Derrick Henry. I'd much rather do that.
Or even Eckler. Yeah, that's absolutely the right answer.
That's the way to go.
All right, so let's move on to the next trade where it is Joe Burrow for Chris Olave, Derek Carr, and a 23 third. And I only groan because I'm all about acquiring Chris Olave now. But I would so easily give away Chris Olave to go get me Joe Burrow because who cares about Derek Carr or a third? I mean, Derek Carr will be okay as the Colts starter next year, but Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, 868, Chris Olave 506, Derek Carr 292, a third 48 for a total of 847. So Joe, I mean, I could just say Joe Burrow a few more times if you need me to, because that's just the answer, and I don't feel like Joe Burrow.
It's I did throw this one in here because I know this isn't like overpaying for Joe Burrow. Maybe some people see it, but I thought it'd be funny because I know how you feel about Chris Olave. So I wanted to get your take on kind of this one, but this is I was so happy to hear that this is so easily the Joe Burrow side because it really is. Like if there was a more reasonable trade to go and acquire a top 5-6 elite dynasty quarterback,
I'm just saying 5, man. I'm leaving it at top 5.
I would love to see a more reasonable trade than this. This is like perfect.
You're the points on the Carr Olave side are pretty good. Don't get me wrong. I do think even if / when monetarily it just makes too much sense for the Raiders to move on at least from this contract on Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. So even if they do move on from Derek Carr is going to be a starter somewhere, even if it's a bridge for a year or two, he's going to start somewhere. He's good enough for it, especially if they have established talent at the wide receiver position on the team. Like Derek Carr in Atlanta wouldn't be awful for me because he'd at least target the hell out of Pitts and London, unlike with whatever the heck is going on right now. So I get it a little bit that to make this trade away from Burrow, plus you're getting that wide receiver to build around because like look at how good Olave is doing with Andy Dalton. And I mean, I love Jarvis Landry. He's not, well, he missed a chunk of the season and, he's 40. So he's not really all that there. Like Alvin Kamara isn't even all like, the defense gets to zone in on Olave and not really worry about the rest.
Mhm.
And he's still doing really well with Andy Dalton.
He's just always open.
So the future is bright for Chris Olave. But Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow. Like that's all I really have. So the next player on the list is at least the one name that Addison threw in here. So I'm going to let him talk about how great Treylon Burks is.
So Burks is the last. I guess Jameson Williams is the last player for a lot of people, but I wasn't really in on Jameson Williams. But Burks to me was the last 2023 rookie wide receiver that I really wanted to see like actually start hitting and doing something, because I mean we got it almost immediately from Garrett Wilson and Drake London, and then Olave maybe just like a week later, and they've all basically been doing it since in different ways, and then so it really was just Burks and Jameson Williams. So I love the fact that Burks came back and immediately in 2 games has 14 targets since returning from his injury. He has over a 20% target share, which yes, it's the Tennessee Titans and they only throw like 25 times a game, but whatever. But he is the clear alpha wide receiver 1 on the Titans. It's everything that we thought he would be, you know, whenever he got drafted by them after they traded away AJ Brown, all that kind of stuff. And Tannehill is just so much better of a quarterback than Malik Willis, especially for, you know, wide receivers, that with Tannehill back now, Derrick Henry's doing his thing. Treylon Burks is now back and healthy. This is, I think, the opportunity to go and buy on Treylon Burks. And I'm willing to buy high on Burks on his value now, because what might be high now won't be high in possibly mid-December, if not, you know, as we're, you know, talking about him in the 2023 offseason, preparing for that year, all that kind of stuff. He's going to get hype. And I think buying high on him now makes a lot of sense, because now I was really looking at it, and I'm going to put this out into the internet, into the air, because I'm really hoping that it happens. I see a lot of similarities between Treylon Burks now and Amon-Ra St. Brown before his second half breakout last year. Because it's just like, would you be shocked, Russ, if over the next 5 weeks that Treylon Burks saw like 50 plus targets?
I think, you know, I gave you those big eyes, but I think the only difference will be, I don't think the touchdowns will be there for Burks, which is great for his value, because if he put up last year Amon-Ra numbers, but if he gets the targets and the receptions and probably even the yards that ARSB did, but doesn't get the like 18 touchdowns that Amon-Ra had at the last 5 games,
yeah,
it's not going to do much. Like, I was talking to a lot of people after, what was it, 9 targets for 7 catches and 117 yards or something crazy like that, and people are just like, what? Nothing? Huh? Like,
it was, if he scored that touchdown on that last catch where he beat Jair Alexander, if he scored a touchdown on that catch and wasn't tackled on the 4-yard line, and we saw 7 for 115 and 1 from Treylon Burks, like, there would be so much more hype about him. I feel like I haven't even heard of his name since
at all
Thursday night. And I think that we are massively underselling how good Treylon Burks is about to be over the last half of the year, and it's going to be a really big breakout. I think like Amon-Ra level. I think of AJ Brown on the same Tennessee Titans team with Ryan Tannehill. You know, I think of like all that kind of stuff. Like, that is in the range of outcomes for Treylon Burks, and I think this is potentially your last week or week and a half before his price really explodes. So, yeah.
I have nothing to add to that. That is, yeah. So let's get to the trades. Treylon Burks for a 12-team Superflex league. Someone traded, like, can we just say Treylon Burks for Javonte Williams? The trade is Treylon Burks and AJ Dillon for Javonte Williams and Nico Collins. Man, AJ Dillon.
That one makes me sad.
Not the point. Okay. Treylon Burks coming in at 265.3, AJ Dillon 141.5 for a total of 406.8. Javonte Williams I already used decimals over there without thinking about it. 382.4, and Nico Collins 33.8 for a total of 416.3. So value-wise, this is fair. Is AJ Dillon even still 141.5? The only thing you get AJ Dillon for is fingers crossed cold weather. And like fingers crossed cold weather, and he starts, beating people into the ground a little bit. But more than anything, Aaron Jones going away this season. Mm-hmm. And just the idea that he could be the main guy next year. You're not getting back up to that level where people are hyping AJ Dillon up to a first. Like, we were there before this season. Okay. People were there this season. I was not there. But, it was, and we're not getting there again. So, like, honestly, this is Treylon Burks for Javonte Williams.
Say it.
Okay. Hold on.
Say it. Because, I'm going to say it. If you don't say it, I'll say it.
I want to change the wording first because I'm going to ask you a question. You have repeatedly, week over week, said any first for Javonte Williams. Are you giving a 23 first? I'll even say it looks like a playoff team's first for Treylon right now.
Yep.
Okay. So clearly you're saying Treylon Burks, and I have to be honest, I think I will too. And it really is more specifically because Javonte, when he hurt his knee, how he hurt his knee, and Denver. Like, perfect storm of me being like, I'm fine getting off of Javonte Williams for a player I believed in and I get it, super small sample size of a game and a half. But you have to remember, before he got hurt, while he wasn't necessarily producing well, all of his secondary stats were great. He was getting the targets. He was getting the routes run. He was out there. He was doing his work. It has taken some time for Tannehill to not be bad this season. Like, the first few games of the season weren't great for the Titans offense, and then they just kept winning ever since. Yeah, so it feels weird to say out loud right now, even though Treylon Burks was my wide receiver 1 in the rookie draft coming in. I would send Javonte Williams to go get Treylon Burks right now.
Yeah. That's what I was waiting for you to say, because I saw this trade and I was like, oh boy. I was like, I don't know if people are ready for me to say that I would rather have Treylon Burks than Javonte Williams right now, but I'm glad that you are on board with me on that one.
I mean, there's so much bias going into me saying that, though. I don't like running backs. The running backs in Denver are usually just pretty good, not really great, especially when they don't want to use one guy, even though we want Javonte Williams to be the guy. When he hurt his knee, how bad he hurt his knee. Like, there's so much going into me just being like, I'm just going to take the young wide receiver that I like, Right. It really is just like, yep.
Yeah. And like, as I would make that move, I think that you could still do something like this trade where it almost reads like it's Javonte for Burks plus AJ Dillon.
Yeah.
So like AJ Dillon's not a negative or a nothing.
He's not even zero sum, right? Like, he does add value. It's not a lot, and it's not what we want it to be, but there's still value there.
Right. So if you get like, it doesn't even have to be AJ Dillon, but like an asset on his level, or if it was like that second round, that late second that we've talked about like all day today, that little extra piece on top of Treylon Burks is just like icing on the cake in a trade that I would already take Burks over Javonte.
This next one is super interesting because there's a lot to it. 12-team, 1 quarterback. Wan'Dale. That's so sad. Dameon Pierce, Treylon Burks, and Wan'Dale Robinson for Joe Mixon, Jerry Jeudy, and Dak Prescott. This is a 12-team, 1 quarterback. I don't remember if I said that out loud, but very important seeing as how there's a quarterback involved in this trade. This actually lines up rather perfectly analyzer-wise. Dameon Pierce, 474. Joe Mixon, 494. Close enough, more or less cross out. Treylon Burks, 346. Jerry Jeudy, 290. Still close enough. Wan'Dale Robinson, 125.9, and Dak Prescott, 155. Total 950 to 940. I mean, like, they're value-wise, the analyzer has this pretty even. Now, the question is, what direction do you want to go in? Jerry Jeudy, man. The only thing that is keeping me positive is that he's still only 23. Like, he is young.
That's like the only we've given him every other excuse for
Like,
3 years now.
I
And
I need him
yeah.
to be 26 on a new team and going a season without getting hurt. And I will allow my heart to be opened again to the idea of being hurt again by Jerry Jeudy.
Oh no.
Like, he's just so young and he was so good coming in. But okay, so I mean, I kind of want to break it down a little bit like the way we did. Dameon Pierce for Joe Mixon. Besides that one game on Joe Mixon and ignoring the fact that he got hurt in last game, you take Pierce because he's 4 years younger. He's on a team that, well, isn't very good, but they're not giving him any competition. I still think going forward, their production will be exactly the same. The only difference is if the Texans do spend their first on a quarterback in this draft, which I don't know if it's the right move, but it's the NFL move, that will be good for the running back on the team, because Davis Mills was a great story for a few minutes. He just got benched, and Kyle Allen, I think it is no. For a while there was like 4 quarterbacks named Allen for a while that I can never remember which was which. Clearly it's not Josh. That's all I'll say. Like, that will be a little bit of bump for Pierce. And while I do think once they actually do start rebuilding, they will replace Dameon Pierce. That's not going to be this coming season. So I would take Pierce over Mixon in the combination deal. I don't like, if you're going to say, would you really do that 1 for 1? Honestly, no, because same tier, same position, I would just not do it.
Right.
I would take Treylon Burks over Jerry Jeudy right now.
Yep.
It hurts to say, but it's where we have to be. I have to start being little realistic with the players I like that aren't doing well. And then the last one, Wan'Dale over Prescott. Yeah, okay, I would take Prescott over what was most likely going to be a replaceable wide receiver production anyway, even though he just got his first 100-yard game and most targets on the team, and then he tears his ACL. And I mean, man, it's week 12, week 11. We may have to write off the entire next season for Wan'Dale. So even in a 1 quarterback, yes, I would take the quarterback here. But enough for me to care on taking what I think is the L for Pierce, Mixon, and Burks, Jeudy? No, I think I send Dak Prescott in a 1 quarterback league to make sure I get the W and get Pierce and Burks.
Right. That was literally the way I broke it down. I was like, you could just chop off Wan'Dale and Dak, and if you just say that it's Pierce and Burks for Mixon and Jerry Jeudy, I'm taking the Pierce and Burks side. Like, I'm taking the rookies.
Yeah.
And the rest of the deal isn't like, and this was done I think Saturday. So it was done after Burks's kind of breakout game on Thursday night, but it was done before Wan'Dale's tear injury.
Rough. So rough.
So yeah, that one was sad. But if Wan'Dale was still healthy, then I think this trade would look a lot better right now. It's just that we have the 2020 hindsight of knowing that Wan'Dale's done for the rest of the year and probably at least half of the year next year. But yeah, the rest of the deal in totality, I'm 100% taking the rookies here, highlighted specifically by the difference, I think, of Treylon Burks over Jerry Jeudy.
You made me think today, and while I'm happy with the output of what you've made me think, I'm unhappy with the fact that you made me use my brain.
Sorry.
I'm not usually there for it. Thank you, everybody. This has been another episode of the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher at Dynasty at House Jadison. Nice. Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes _. Where did the J sound even come from? I don't
Jordan
know.
Addison.
Jordan Addison. That is absolutely that's what it was. It's rookie season, baby. The season's not over, but it's rookie season. I will speak for Addison right now, where I will say we are thankful for all of you who give us the time of day and allow us into your lives. Thank you very much for entertaining us, for being really silly up here and getting to talk about a silly game. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful holiday. Even if you don't celebrate, eat some amazing food, because food is great anyway, regardless if it's a holiday. So catch you next time, everybody.